Greetings guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Today I am wearing a pair of eyelashes that I did not realize were this big, and now my eyes are very heavy. In today's video, we are going to be looking at some really fun Instagram posts made by an account called Elegantly Feminine. This account was sent to me on Instagram, so thank you. If you have a recommendation for what you want to see from me, then you can DM me on Instagram. I do check my DMs occasionally, and so I do sometimes see what you recommend and I do sometimes get around to it. But if you really want me to see what your video request is, then every month on Patreon, I do take video requests and then I will dedicate the video to you as patron of the day. Speaking of which, today's patron of the day is Robbie Groves. Thank you so much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy this video. And if you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. Anyway, this account tries to be a very nice and aesthetic account in which it posts nice photos with a screenshot of a tweet over the top. Not even their own tweets most of the time, just tweets with political views they agree with. They crop onto a baby or pastel pink backgrounds, etc. And then they build up their feed like that, which I always find so amusing. And as I am sure you can gather based on the name, their takes are very misogynistic, to say the very least. So we're going to be looking at some of their takes. So this tweet is cropped onto a picture of baby's feet with a flower, and it reads, "Ladies, your children are not your father's children. They are your husband's children. They should have his last name." Okay, but they're not my husband's father's children either. They're my children. So why can't they have my last name? Men's last names are typically the last names of their fathers too. So if naming my child my last name is naming my child after my father, then surely naming my child with my husband's last name is naming my child after my husband's father. Neither of them are my child's parents. I am my child's mother. I carried that child in my body for 9 months. So I feel like I have the right to give them my last name. You can give your child your husband's last name, you can give them your last name, or my favorite alternative that I think we need to do more is come up with a new one. Make a new family name. I understand changing your last name to your husband's and giving your baby that last name in the sense that I understand wanting a family to all have the same last name. I get that. That makes sense to me. Because it is both yours and your partner's child, so I understand wanting them to have the same last name, which I guess people do hyphens, but I get it in that sense, not in the property owning sense. So my alternative is to come up with your own last name. So you get married and you both change your last name to something cool that you've made up, and then you give your baby that name. That's a much better system. I prefer that so much. My parents almost did mermaid, because my dad is Murphy, my mom is May, and they mixed them together and they came up with mermaid. I think that was almost my last name, which would have been fantastic. I'm very upset that it's not, especially considering my middle name is Ariel after the mermaid. How cool would it have been? Savannah Ariel Mermaid? Brilliant, I love it. Feminists who say women who choose to be homemakers that stay home with their children are useless, and then a bunch of red flags. And this one, I agree on. If anyone is saying women who choose to stay at home and be homemakers and look after children are useless, they are not a feminist, all right? Feminism is the woman's right to choose. Feminism means that we want equal opportunity. It means you as a woman, if you wish to, can stay home and be a homemaker if you want to. And it's completely not right to discredit that job. Being a homemaker, looking after your kids and running errands and stuff like that, that is a difficult job. And I don't think we should be discrediting that at all. Absolutely not. However, women should also have the opportunity to get the same jobs as men. They should have the opportunity to go into the same fields and have the same careers. And alternatively, men should also be given the option to be homemakers and stay-at-home dads. In my family, my mom worked and my dad was the stay-at-home dad. He looked after me as a small child. That needs to be something that we encourage. Feminism is wanting people to have the same opportunities and the ability to choose freely. Feminism is wanting equal opportunity and the options to choose, you know? If you're trying to take away options from anyone and you're calling any woman useless for anything, that's not feminism. You're being a dick. Only have sex with the person you have chosen to love for life and who you want to raise children with. The abortion rate would drastically decrease if everyone did this. The abortion rate would drastically decrease if we had comprehensive sex education everywhere. Like, if we had comprehensive sex education and then easily affordable and accessible contraception and birth control methods and family planning, etc., then the abortion rate would be lower because people would be having safer sex and they would know more about things like consent, because we need consent education too. Like, teaching abstinence only is very ineffective because when you put really strict rules on people, they want to break out and they want to break those, and those kids are the ones who are having like unprotected sex and doing like dangerous shit because they don't know what they're doing. They don't really know the consequences and they just want to break the rules because they don't want to be confined in this box. And that is natural human behavior. What we need to do is give comprehensive sex education. We need to teach about consent and talk about consent more. And then the abortion rate would decrease because people would be more educated around sex and be more compassionate around sex. So we need to do that. Great. Thank you. Respect your man and he will love you. Serve your man and he will protect you. Obey your man and he will guide you. Submit to your man and he will adore you. If he only loves me because I obey him and submit to him, then I don't want him. If a man only loves me because he controls me, he doesn't really love me. He loves power, and I don't want anything to do with that. So, no thank you. I'm not submitting to any man. I'm not letting a man control my life. If that's what you want to do, good for you. But like, if a man only loves me because he has power over me, he doesn't really love me. I don't want to be there. Uncomfortable truth. The richer a man is, the more respected he will be. The prettier a woman is, the more wanted she will be. And this one's a two-parter. So we also have fact of life. Men want youth, beauty, and fertility when choosing a woman. Women want strength, social status, and resources when choosing a man. Always remember this. And like, based off of the standards we as a society have set, this isn't inherently wrong. Like, this isn't incorrect because this is sort of what we've set up and what we've said is required. Like, we've given people roles, you know? We've told women that their worth is based off of beauty, and so that's upkept. And we've told men that they have to be in positions of power and be like breadrunners and stuff, so they hold that view. It's interesting to think about like what is nature versus what is nurture, you know? Like, what's a societal standard versus what do we actually want? Because if you think about it, everybody has a different idea of what success is. Everyone has a different idea of what like protection is. Everyone has a different idea of what beauty is. We are all individual people. And the fact that we as a society have put like blanket rules on what all of these things are is just not at all reality based. Like, that's not how anything works. Every single person is different. We all want different things from relationships. We all view things differently. We all have different like standards of living and different expectations, etc., etc. Like, these rules are just like not true because like submissive men exist. There are people who find some people beautiful that you might find really unattractive. Like, everyone views things differently. Everyone wants different things. So this is just inherently untrue. We may live in a world that says that this is true, and we may have a lot of people who suffer with insecurities around these things. And because we are told this, a lot of women suffer a lot with body image and wanting to change the way they look and basing their worth off of beauty because that is what we are taught. Although that is not inherently naturally how things work. Just as men are told that they need to be providers, they need to be strong, they aren't allowed to have emotions, etc. That is not how men work. That's not how people work. We are all different and we can't keep enforcing these rules because all it does is make people upset and depressed because all they can do is think about everything that they've done wrong and that they need to change in order to fit to these standards that are made up. They're not real. We can get rid of them and it would do a lot more good than damage because it means people can stop trying to pretend people that they're not, and it'll allow people to express themselves the way that they wish to, and it stops putting pressure on people. Cheers to all my fellow non-biologists who can define what a woman is because you haven't divorced yourself from reality. The way this is worded makes it seem like you're disagreeing with biology and biologists, which you are, so I don't really know how you think that's a win, because it's not. Biologically, there are more than two genders, because gender is a social construct, not a biological construct. And even if you want to go for biological sex, there are still more than two, because intersex people exist, and that's 1% of the population, I believe, which is a lot of people, by the way. That's not like a small amount of people. 1 in 100 people, that's a lot. And like, even that aside, this whole like, you can't even define women anymore thing is so ridiculously untrue. No one is saying that except for you. No one is saying you can't say women. We use women all the time. I am a woman. Most of my friends are women. You can say women. Absolutely. That's still a thing. It's still an okay word to say. Not a dirty word at all. You're making this up and putting words in our mouths that have not been said. Just in biological settings, when talking about bodies, you use more inclusive language because woman doesn't apply to everyone, you know? So like, if you're talking about periods, it's people who menstruate, because not all women menstruate and not all people who menstruate are women. No one is saying that women aren't included in that. It's women, and then also people who aren't women. And it's also not addressing all women, because not all women are impacted by that issue. And people are always like, and they're referring to mothers as birthers. No, they're not. No one is like just referring to every pregnant person they meet as like a birthing person. When addressing like a large amount of people, you can refer to them as like fertile people, pregnant people, people with baby, etc. You don't have to say pregnant woman. And when you're talking about like a person who gave birth, you don't have to say mother, you can just say parent. The parent who gave birth. It's really not difficult. But when addressing individual people, you know, who identify as women, you're obviously going to use woman and mother because that is their preferred term. Those are the words that you use. Having a large group of people addressed as like a neutral term doesn't impact you in any way at all. It's not erasing women. It's just being inclusive of more people, you know? Like, that's it, okay? No one is saying you can't be called a woman. No one is saying you can't be called a mother. Those words still exist. They're still very important. No one's trying to get rid of them. Please calm down. Third wave feminists are so unhinged and short-sighted that they're now erasing women from society. Woman of the year is a man. The best women's swimmer is a man. Is this what progress looks like? Lol. Firstly, a man said this. So, red flag already. And like, this kind of ties to the thing we just said, right? We're not erasing womanhood. We just acknowledge that all women look different, and womanhood is a spectrum. There is no one way to be a woman. There is not a correct way to be a woman. All of our bodies look different. All of our hobbies are different. Our interests are different. Our menstrual cycles are different. Our fertility is different. Our brain patterns are different. Our thoughts and feelings and hormone levels, all of that, everything is different in every single person. We are all unique individuals. All of us have different bodies. It's not abnormal to say that we have different bodies. We're just including like trans women in womanhood because they are women who have different bodies. You know, like I have a different body to literally every other woman because this is my body. No one else has it, you know? Like, we are all individual people. We all look different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all feel different. Everything about us is different. And you can't sit there and say this shit because all you're doing is implying that all women are the same. And that's not true. We just acknowledge that women can be different sometimes. And that frightens you. And it doesn't have to. Just accept that some people are different and make them feel safe because they're not safe. Progress is allowing people to exist as themselves and express themselves and allowing them to be safe in doing so. And you are taking that away from them and not allowing them to have that freedom and that safety. And that is you fighting against progress. Dear pro-abortion folks, your 5 minutes of pleasure, sex, doesn't trump the lifespan of a human being that results from your time of pleasure. My body, my choice ends when you accept the risk of pregnancy and choose to have sex. 0.001% risk is still choosing to risk it. This is such a twisted narrative coming from these people, because aren't you the same people who say that you have to have sex with your husband whenever he asks for it, right? Whenever your husband asks for sex, you have to do it. And yet you're saying that it's about my pleasure? I promise you, if sex is only lasting 5 minutes every time, it's not for my pleasure. But even still, even if you are only having 5-minute sex with your husband, you still are at risk of getting pregnant if you don't want to. Not all married couples want to have children, all right? Are you saying that you should be married and abstain from sex forever? Not everyone wants kids. You're like, don't have sex until you're with someone you want to settle down with and raise a family with. What if I don't want to have kids? Then am I never ever allowed to have sex? Like this, it's such flawed logic. What if I'm married and my husband wants to have sex, but he doesn't want a child? Then what? What wins out there? Do I have to listen to my husband about him wanting to have sex, or do I have to listen to my husband about him not wanting a kid? Because husband is always right. Always have to do what the husband wants, right? So which wins out? Because you're implying that everyone wants to have kids, and that's just not true. It's not true at all. And then you go one step further into 0.001% risk is still a risk. If you are living your life like not doing anything that has a 0.001% risk of affecting you, you can never do anything. Just like eating. If I start choking, are you going to be like, well, maybe you shouldn't have eaten food. That's on you. You shouldn't have eaten that. No, you're not going to do that because that's ridiculous. If I'm going for a drive and someone like rear ends me and I have to go to hospital, is that my fault because I got into a car and risked getting to a car accident? No, you're going to be sympathetic towards me. I break my ankle while I'm going for a run. Is that my fault because I decided to go for a run? Are you gonna get mad at me and like say that I should never go running again? Like, you can't live your life like that. It's just not practical at all. It's just not. The only thing you can do to avoid harm is die. And that's not really something on the table. Just live your life. If you're taking all the precautions you can, then you're taking all the precautions that you can. And like, sometimes that doesn't work out. Like a 1 in 10,000, according to this statistic, 1 in 10,000 times that doesn't work out, you're allowed to do something about it. Just like if I break my ankle, I'm gonna go get it fixed. I'm not gonna be like, well, maybe I shouldn't have gone running. I guess I'll have to live with the burden of having a broken ankle forever. No, you go and you do something about it. We have now reached the end of my video. I hope that you have enjoyed these elegantly feminine takes. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. And a massive thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. Wolf, Toulousk, Bobby, Josh, Mandy, Robbie, Ikazel, Kai, Jessica, Eldo, Ida, Queer Corey, Mick McKenna, Anna, Raven, Danielle, and Elias. I love and appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for joining. If you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, as well as podcasts a week early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, live streams, vlogs, and a little handwritten thank you letter. So if you would like to join, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, TheQueerKiwi, and Twitter, ThatQueerKiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.